we're back with the conclusion, coming on the concluding tape of the life and times of Otis W. Earhart here. Or Earhart, not here.
A part of it.
Part of the exciting times that he lived in. All right, that's the war. We were concluding with that, what you did and so forth in the war. Roosevelt was president. I know was president during that time, and he brought about the New Deal. Did you ever work in the WPA and the Workers' Progress Administration or anything like that?
No, none of us worked in the WPA because Lloyd Key had a job at the coal mine, and he made $5.10. Well, he got two shifts. He got $10.20.
So that was more money than you could make with WPA, right?
That's more money than you make it WPA. You only got $1 a day at WPA if you didn't get that all that many days.
So y'all were better off like you were to begin with.
Yeah.
All right. Let me talk about a little bit about here when Lee came along in you said 46, I think is right.
44.
What do you remember 44 I've got here. What do you remember the most about Lee growing up? What stands out most about him?
I guess his soapbox, when he got big enough to qualify for soapboxes, he won fourth place first year and he won first place second year. And he went to Akron, Ohio. And
we all won a free trip to Akron.
Yeah.
And we drove up there and stayed in the hotel.
At a station wagon.
In the station wagon. They had DeVoe paint on the side.
That's right.
They didn't know we was come up there to sell paint or watch the race. Yeah, it was a big Ford station wagon. I think it was a Galaxy 500 or a Fairlane or something, but it was kind of a light green. It had DeVoe paint all lettered on the side of it.
It was a Ford station wagon.
And didn't have any air conditioning.
No, yeah, it did too.
That one had air conditioning? I thought it didn't have air conditioning until you got that Rambler Ambassador.
Last one I had was a Ford.
Last one you had was a Plymouth.
Last one, well, I had a Ford. No.
You had a green Rambler Ambassador for a while because that was the first one we ever had. It had a radio in it.
Well, I got in a Ford with a radio in it, and I sold a radio to the van they transferred the Ford to. But
yeah.
They took the car away from me and they brought me inside.
So the soapbox is the most memorable about Lee, and Vicki was born. She's 5 years older than me, so she was born in 49, right?
Yeah.
All right, she was born in 49, and what's the most memorable thing about Vicki that you can recall?
Vicki was cat crazy. She had 27 cats at one time. But none of them coming out. She let the old big Brindle Tomcat in once in a while because he played the piano.
Yeah, I remember that.
You walk back and forth on it just to hear piano keys play. Then they put him outside. And I woke up one morning and I looked out and a pack of dogs come by there every morning, and they had the best looking cat in the bunch and the mouse running across the garden with it.
All right, now this is what we all been waiting for. What do you remember most about the best looking of the three children that you had, or that you have? And that, of course, that's me. What would you remember most about me between now and the time I was born?
Well, you being sick for one thing. The kid just quit acting, but for 3 weeks. And one day they started back, we sitting there, and you always wanted to watch Lassie, and they let you watch Lassie. And then they couldn't cut the hole in the stomach, and irrigate the stomach.
Yeah, I can recall getting sliced open with no anesthetic.
And,
That was one of those terrifying things I remember was them taking a knife and cutting my stomach open while I was watching them. And I remember yelling all one or two curse words I had learned in the first grade. I think I damned them several times.
you were in the first grade, and you went to fourth grade, and you would talk on the weather all the time.
Well, we still do that. That's what I was doing tonight, was repairing my weather station for the store. All right, how long? We'll move on. I mean, we could spend all night talking about me, of course, but
yeah, good.
we could go on and on and on about me. But let's move on to other things. We'll say that'll be recorded in history anyway about me, and it'll be probably a book written. How long did you work for DeVoe? When did you start working for DeVoe?
I don't know what year.
Or as we said back then, down south was Devo.
I quit. It's 1950 something. I worked 25 years and 25 years. Like just a few days of being 25 years. And I retired from DeVoe in 1976. And
that was on disability though, right?
Yeah.
Do you recall taking me to work on Saturday mornings and me doing my imitations of you at the supper table discussing Al Schaefer? You don't remember that? Occasionally you'd take me to work with you on Saturday morning because you only worked half a day. And Joe McAnally, whom we saw at Walmart, just back in July when I was there for Jim's funeral, we saw Joe McAnally. He was the one that would always get me separated from you. And he would ask me, what does your dad say when you get home at night? Of course, not knowing any better, I always told him that, I said, well, my dad comes home lots of times and he's always talking about that old Al Schaefer. That Al Schaefer made me do this and that. And I didn't realize that he had me telling that in front of everybody just because they knew it would make him mad. And they would all get a big laugh out of it.
Al was good to me though.
I don't know if they ever told Al any of those things that I was just mimicking you, what I saw because I was little. But Joe was the one that got the biggest kick out of hearing me do those imitations of you talking about Al Schaefer. He just used to crack up doing that. All right. Now, like I said, for the sake of the tape here and the time, we're going to keep moving here. When did you first have your first heart attack? What year was that?
I got off of work one evening and went uptown to get something. It was supposed to be Christmas, I believe.
Well, I know you were in the hospital Christmas Day because we all drove over there. Lee drove us over there.
And the doctor was on me. He told me to come back at a certain time, and I didn't go back at a certain time, and he sent out hunting me. He didn't go out himself, but he inquired around. Called the house. I didn't have no real hard heart attack, but it was enough that they was concerned about it. I stayed in the hospital. I don't know how long.
Didn't do severe damage, in other words.
No, it didn't do severe damage, but I sure did hurt for a while. Now I went down to Cressy's and I stood there just inside the door and just stood there and was afraid to move because it hurt so bad.
All right, we know that it wasn't, that was in 63, 62, when was that?
So long there, yeah. I don't remember when.
Now Mother Tula May had a bout with cancer. That was in 63, right? Was her original go-around with it?
Yes, she had breast cancer. She had
Right.
her breast removed, and cancer is in, what they call it, it stopped for a while.
Remission.
Yeah. And,
But basically all they had to treat it back then was radiation, I think.
for 10 years she was all right, and then it come back. And she never did tell us it's cancerous what's wrong.
Well, that was one thing I had written out here to ask. I remember I was, that she went in the hospital for a few days in May. And then she came home and, I'm trying to think, that was the year before. That might have been the year before she went to, no, she went to the hospital for a few days in May. I was on the road with the college that summer. And I remember her telling me, that was the summer she was sick and had her oxygen tank and was really at home and was getting worse. And Charlotte would come over to stay with her every day. And Mother was real, and this is, for the posterity of the tape, was real sly in the way she did this thing. She would have Charlotte, I remember she'd have Charlotte come over and sit with her, and of course Charlotte was right there by her bedside the whole time. And she would ask Charlotte to read the Bible to her because she couldn't see very well. And Charlotte, say, well, Aunt Tula May, what do you want me to read? And Mother would be, you say, well, it couldn't be funny when you're laying there dying, but she would have Charlotte read John 3:16. And Charlotte come back the next day and she'd say, Aunt Tula May, what would you like me to read for you? Well, read to me John 3:16 again, Charlotte. And she had Charlotte reading all of these salvation scriptures, for God so loved the world, and all we like sheep have gone astray. We've turned everyone his own way, and the Lord laid on him the iniquity of us all, from Isaiah 53:6. She had her reading all these salvation verses, and finally one day, Mother confronted Charlotte and said, what do you think about the Bible saying? And Charlotte said, I think I was supposed to get saved. Well, Charlotte prayed there with Mother there in the bedroom that day and got saved.
Yeah.
And that was, but that's how sly, even though Mother knew she was headed towards the end, she was still sly enough to have Charlotte read me John 3:16, would you, Charlotte? So, that shows you that she still had, she had heaven on her mind even when she was coming down into the line there. I was going to mention to you also that Uncle Paul confronted me that summer I went on the road with the music group, Kelvin and I think Becky and Becky was with me, Kelvin, Irving, and a bunch of others. That was our first summer on the road, and there was 12 of us. And we came home for a break. And Kelvin and Becky came with me because I remember we took Lee's dune buggy and went riding in it. And Uncle Paul come over the day before we went back, and he said, do you think you should be going back on this trip? And I said, well, yeah, I guess. I didn't know what he was driving at. And he said, don't you think your mother is pretty sick that you ought to be staying here with her? And he was real stern about it. I remember he was real serious and stern about it. And I had never thought about Mother being sick to the point I needed to call off everything and come home. So I was really confused when he said that. So I went to him and I said, Uncle Paul, do you think, I went to Mother. I went to Mother, and I said, Uncle Paul told me that I shouldn't be back, go back with the college group, that I should stay here at home and quit. And the thing was, I was the chief pianist for the group. I was president of the group, and I was the one that put the music show together, for what we did. They had done the rehearsals and everything. And when I told Mother about it, she took me by the hand. She said, are y'all out preaching the gospel and telling people about Jesus? And I said, that's what we do the whole time we're out, And she said, good. She said, that's all I want you to do. She said, don't worry about me. She said, you go out and tell people about Jesus and what he's done for them, and I'll be fine. And she said, I don't want you to come home. I want you to go back and keep doing that. And I never responded back to Uncle Paul on what he said or anything, because I realized then that what I was doing was what Mother wanted me to do. and it didn't make any difference. I mean, I wasn't being disrespectful to Uncle Paul by any means, but it didn't make any difference what anybody else thought about it, because I knew what she thought about it at that point. And when I went back to join the group, I knew that I had her blessing in doing it. And that's what she wanted.
She went to the hospital at Princeton, and she didn't really know anything then. She didn't respond to me very much to anything. She's too bad. She never did tell us she had cancer.
I think, that summer, earlier in that year before, the summer before, I was working at the church. In '73, that summer I worked at the church. That was before I started going on the road with the college. I did janitorial work down at the church, and I rode into work with y'all every morning. Y'all dropped me off at the church downtown at 700 North 18th. And y'all going to work. But I remember when we got out of school there in 1st of June, riding to work with y'all, that Mother was coughing then. She started coughing. And every morning she'd get in the car, and it was almost like she had a bad cough or an asthma every morning. I think she knew then something was going on.
Yeah.
And that's why she didn't tell anybody, didn't say anything. But I think she knew then that something was wrong, because she was coughing like she had asthma or something else every morning.
She something was wrong. She just didn't say nothing about it.
And that's and I remember that went on that whole summer. And then in the course of that year, I came home, and she had been to the doctor 2 or 3 times. But then that next year, when I actually went on the road, that May, she went over to the hospital for several days, and then she came out, and then as the summer progressed, she was bedridden and got worse and worse. And
I carried her down to the University Hospital several times. I don't know what they did to her. She never would tell me. But they gave her some kind of treatment.
I think that somewhere fairly early on, I think that one of the doctors probably told her that the cancer had come back, and it's probably not much doubt that they told her it was terminal. That they probably said it's not going to go away, and I'm willing to bet you that somebody at some point told her, you've got about 6 months, 8 months, or whatever, but she didn't tell you or me or anybody else. But I think somewhere, I don't see how you could have been that sick, except that one of those doctors somewhere gave her a timeline and told her this is how much longer you probably have left.
Well, she
didn't say anything.
Just before she died, she was over at Brookwood, and the doctor told me her brothers and sisters, brothers and so forth was over there. And I was up there when she died. I come and got you. And but she was unconscious. She didn't know what she didn't know nothing. She died easy.
Yeah, I know.
And
she was conscious on Thursday, because I was fixing to go. I was cleaning up the car and fixing to leave to go to North Carolina to play for Gary and Audrey Osteen's wedding, and up in Chadbourne, North Carolina. I was going up there to play for it. And I remember Mother called me, and she said, would you go by or I talked to her on the phone from the hospital, and she said, would you go by Broyles and pick up my check? And I went down there and picked it up and brought it out there. But I remember before she hung up, you got on the phone and you told me I might need to reconsider going and doing that wedding, because Mother was seemed to be going downhill pretty fast. So I called Gary and Audrey and told them the circumstances and said, I just can't do the wedding, And I went over and got her check and took it to her there on Thursday evening, and she smiled and said thank you. And I didn't stay long. I went on back to the house, And then Friday morning they came in and did some kind of procedure where they vacuumed out her lungs, the fluid out of her lungs. And when they did that, it was just shortly after that she went comatose. And I think, from what, if I remember correctly, Laverne said that when they vacuumed out her lungs, they were literally vacuuming out tissue out of her lungs. The machine was actually pulling tissue out because her lungs were almost destroyed. I'm not going to
all over her body.
I'm not going to tell you, or I am going to tell you that we've discussed it before, that, and Lee thinks the same thing. I'm not totally sure that ceiling at R.B. Broyles was nothing but asbestos.
That's right.
And I think that she died of asbestosis cancer, is what, because Bonnie dying of the same thing, Ira dying of the same thing, all those ladies that worked in that office down there died of cancer within just a few years of one another.
Some of the men did.
And that's way, way too coincidental, and the percentages are way out of proportion there.
Yeah.
So there had to be, we got to move on here, but that had to be something critical of that degree that went on. I think that's what really did it to her, was that. But that's a long time gone, and God has healed her now. I mean, she's with God, so He healed her. That's one of the great things about dying too, is that if you're sick, when God takes you into eternity, you're healed. You're whole again. So.
Well, I gave her a kiss before she died. She didn't know it though.
Well, she might. Whenever you're comatose, sometimes you know things, you just can't respond.
I hugged her and kissed her. I knew she was dying.
Yeah, that was a Saturday afternoon. I remember it was around 4:30. But God has charge of her, and that's the important thing. And we'll see her again one day. And that's one thing we can count on. That's one of the good things we can count on.
Yeah.
Okay, let me move here. From here on, a lot of these things we all know, but we're going to just kind of cover it real quick just for posterity's sake, because we all know all this. Who was it that introduced you to Robbie Shirley?
What was her name?
Ruby
Pate. Ruby Pate.
Pennington.
She was determined to get us together, and she did. That was when Ruby was secretary treasurer of, she's secretary of church. I was treasurer. I was signing checks in if I had to.
Do you remember the first day we went up to the lake?
Yeah.
Do you remember who went with you?
Ruby and Robbie. Somebody else, right?
Ruby met you up there at the house, but there was two other people that went with you when you went up to the lake.
I don't remember who it was. You?
Me and Nancy Copeland. That was Nancy's first time home with me, and she and I went with you, and then we went up to, you told us when we come in Friday night, you said, well, I'm going up to meet a lady tomorrow and y'all can come with me. And we went up to the lake, and Ruby met you up there and introduced you, and then Ruby left me and you and Robbie and Nancy there. And Robbie and Nancy hit it right off, they hit it from day one. They just the same kind of people.
Yeah.
And but that was the beginning, I think. There was that Saturday we went up there. Okay. What things did you two like to do then, and when did you know that you wanted to get married? What were some of the things y'all enjoyed doing back then when you were quote unquote dating?
I don't know. We just seemed to hit it off. It'd be the same, like the same things, and well, we just liked the same things. Of course, we know we went to church together.
When did you know you wanted to get married? How long was that before you knew that?
I guess I went with 6 months, probably 6 months.
And who proposed to who?
I did her.
And what did she die laughing when you asked her that, or was she real serious about it?
She was ready to get married too.
So y'all just said, well, let's do it, right? Now, was the night y'all proposed, is that the night of the earthquake, or is that just a coincidental thing?
That's just coincidental thing.
Because we all remember the night of the earthquake there in Birmingham, and y'all were up
Yeah.
there
Yeah, I
smooching. We
remember
figure that's
that.
why the earthquake happened.
It shook the house and rattled the truck, power lines and everything else.
All right, we were all there, but when did you marry and where? We know it was at Birmingham at Good Shepherd, and it
No,
was.
we didn't get married at the Good Shepherd. We got married at Sam Glover's house.
No, you and Robbie.
Oh,
We're 50 years in the future here now. Get up to date with us. What, are you going to sleep on me or something? Here, listen. We're talking about you and Robbie. You got married at Good Shepherd Church.
Yeah,
Dwight performed the ceremony.
yeah.
Jim took pictures.
You played.
I played the organ.
Yeah.
And y'all did your own flowers.
Lee was the best man, I know.
And didn't Vicky do the reception at her? And
Jim was something.
Jim did photography. He had his camera doing the pictures. I think that's right. And who was the matron of honor?
I don't remember.
I don't know, it was Ruby or who. All right, that was on June the 16th of 76? What day was it?
No, it was,
Let's remember now.
I forgot, I didn't know.
It was a week before I went to Hampton to start my internship. No, I'll take that back. It was a week before, that was 2 weeks. Yeah, it was a week before I went and played the music for Terry and Teresa's wedding. Because, they got married, y'all got married on Friday night, and I left on Friday morning. A week, y'all went on honeymoon. I left a week later.
We went down to the farm.
I left a week later and went to Hampton. But I had to stop in North Carolina and do Terry and Teresa's wedding on Saturday afternoon. Then I spent the night in Siler City and drove and arrived in Hampton Sunday afternoon. Now, it was, but that was what, June? What day did y'all get married? June the what? It was around the 6th.
June 18th.
The 18th, is that when it was?
The day after your
Birthday? I guess the 18th, because, yeah, I know Terry and Teresa got married a week later on Saturday. And y'all got married on Friday night. Okay. Do you recall, I'm going to ask you some questions type here because we run out of time. Do you recall, by any chance, on your honeymoon staying at a tremendous place called the Maggie Todd Powell Nursing Home? Do you remember that?
Yeah, we spent our honeymoon at a nursing home. Our son gave us his room, and he moved across the hall with were you by yourself?
I had a 70-year-old roommate. I'm trying to remember his name. It was a real simple name, but I remember that his wife was 69, he was 70, he was in the nursing home. His wife would come see him every Sunday, and she was dating another man. And he would drive up in his Cadillac on Sunday afternoon and let her out the front door. And inevitably, every Sunday, she was wearing a white vinyl miniskirt and had on vinyl knee boots, which was, of course, was big in the 70s, And she had long hair all the way down to her waist, and she was 69 years old trying to dress like she was 19. And she would come in and say, "Hey, honey, how are you doing? I hope you're feeling all right. I missed you this week," and go all over him. And she stayed there for 15 minutes and then tell him, "Well, I've got to go back home and clean up the house and get things, ready in case you get to come home." And he would say, "Oh, thank you," and so forth. I mean, she had him just over a barrel full, thinking she was waiting on him. And she'd go back outside and get in the Cadillac with her boyfriend and take off. And the staff there just would roll their eyes, and of course they never said anything to him, but they would just roll their eyes at how she could, do him like that, treat him like that. But that was life in the Maggie Todd Powell Nursing Home, and there was a lot of other things, exciting things happened there. There'll be another time.
We got our meals for $1 a meal left.
And that was y'all's kind of price.
Yeah.
That was kind of what you could afford.
The man in charge there, he said, what y'all gonna do today? We gonna hunt a place to live? He said, yeah. I said, you don't have to hunt a place to live, so you can stay right here.
That was Mr. Harrington. Mr. Harrington was a real fine fellow. He's dead now, but he was a real fine fellow. Annette Robinson was the secretary there, and I went and saw Annette. Well, we went and saw Annette, you know, when we went down to CBN a few years ago, right when we first moved up here.
Yeah.
And we went by to see Annette. And she was working at the furniture store there, and she hadn't seen me in 10 years. And I walked in there, and I told some of the people at the furniture store I was with the IRS, and I wanted to see Annette Robinson. And they went back there and told her that there was a man from the IRS there wanting to see her, and she was scared since she come out there. And when she saw it was me, she looked real hard, and she said, "Marty, is that you?" And I said, "Who else?" And she just about had a fit because she thought she was fixing to go to jail for something. Anyway, but she was at the Maggie Todd Powell home too. All right, tell us about the time that you broke your arm fishing up at the lake. This is one that was one for the history
That
books.
was before we got married. Me and Paul was up there fishing, and I got up in a tree. And early one morning, I got up in a willow tree and leaned out over the fish bed, and on the bed, and I dropped my hook in there, and I got the bait, and I was getting down to get the bait, on my hook again, and I fell across a concrete block wall, knocked a hole in my hip, broke this arm, both bones, and I got out and lay down on it. I could see halfway across the lake. From there on, it was dark. and Robbie was gone. She spent the night with Ruby, I think. Somebody, Ruby, I think. And she come in and she looked at it. She said, "Well, that arm broke. You better go to the doctor." Went to the doctor, and she told him that I fell out of a tree fishing and caught a brim and a big and pulled me out of the tree. And they put that in my record.
That you got pulled out of a tree because the fish was so large. Even the doctor had a hard time buying into that one.
I had to take a bath before I could go because I had that stuff all over me. And that's when I found out my hip had a big hole in it. And I got dressed and I showed her that place on my hip. She said, "You better go to the doctor right now. You got to go to the doctor anyhow with your arm." And so I hopped up and went, and they had more fun out of that falling out of the tree or fishing and anything. Got back, I caught 4 more brim, big ones, and caught, I forget how many I caught. We caught a bunch of them that day. And I don't know what happened after that. I had that arm in a sling. I caught 4 more fish.
And everybody wanted to get pictures of it because they couldn't believe that you could break your arm fishing. That's why I need to get you that song about Brad Paisley sings about "Sure Gonna Miss Her." Goes fishing. I have to find that and get it to you.
I broke that arm again. For a long time. I didn't know it broke. In December, I went to, Robert said I better go see about that arm. And the bone was that far apart.
That's a pretty good spread there.
And I had to have a piece of metal put in there to hold them bones together. It's still in there. I can't lift nothing real heavy with this arm now.
Okay, I've got about 10 minutes left on my tape here, so I'm going to skip a couple of peripheral things here and give you 4 questions. And this is ones that we just told you to think about a little earlier, and we're going to put it here in this last 10 minutes. If you could look back across your life, what do you think is what would you say is your best accomplishment? What are you most proud of?
Well, I guess
And you don't have to be modest. You can.
I guess I was proud of my naval career, 8 years, and my time with the bow, I enjoyed that.
Okay. Now this is these last three. I told you are not morbidity questions, but they're questions about if I could have my say so about it, how I would like for it to be read. And this is a common question they ask people all the time, especially if they're a celebrity. And since you're the celebrity for the day, we're going to ask you, how, if you could be the person that goes and orders your tombstone, how would you want your epitaph to read? How would you want it to? Somebody walks up to your gravesite and they see this tombstone. What's it going to say on it that you think would characterize you? It'd be like in one sentence, just a few words. And we can't put a 5,000 word essay on a tombstone.
This man was a Christian and he loved everybody.
Now say that one more time.
This man was a Christian and he loved everybody.
Okay, that's good. All right, now, next question. What do you want to be, now this, you might say the same thing, might be the same answer, but if you could write out what you want said, what would you want the pastor to say about you at your funeral? Now, it might be the same thing as your epitaph, but he would expand a little more on that, but what would you want him to say about you?
I don't even say I was a Christian.
Okay. And what else?
What else?
What else did you want him to say? I mean, he's going to get up there and he's going to say, Alice was a Christian. Thank you for being here today. Everybody dismissed. Let's head for the food.
I loved everybody.
He loved everybody. So you think that's what your hallmark would be, that you loved everybody?
I think that's what I'd want over.
Okay. All right. Now this is the final question, and we've got about 10 minutes or so to cover it here, so you don't have to take up the entire 10 minutes, but you can take as much time as you want. If we run out of tape, you'll just run out of tape anyway. If we showed this, again, I warned you about this ahead of time. If we showed this portion of a tape at your eulogy, now, and like I said, we're not concentrating on funeral here for the sake of the funeral, or because your 86th birthday's coming up next February. We're not asking the questions for that reason. We're just asking the questions because we want to hear how you would describe yourself to the little ones coming down the road. See, that's why we're doing this. This is just a good way to put the question, because when you talk about funerals and eulogies, we talk about summarizing our lives. And that's one thing Lanny, our pastor here, has said, that it's not real easy to do. You can't summarize somebody's life in 15 minutes. He said, you really can't do that. He said, when you summarize somebody's life, you have to say this, this, and this, and just say, you remember when this happened, and all so forth. He said, you can't summarize a person that serves God, their life, in 15 minutes. But the question is, if we showed this portion of tape, this following portion here at your funeral, at your eulogy, what would you want to say to everyone, knowing that they can't reply back to you? And then this is really a tongue-in-cheek fun time where you can treat it serious, you can treat it funny. But if you had the chance to say, okay, on the tape, I'm history, but on this tape, before I became history, I wanted all of you to know this. If you could speak to everybody, say, from beyond the grave, that in a real dramatic sense. If you could speak to everybody, what would you want to say to them? And they can't say anything back to you. They can't respond back to you. They can't tell you to shut up. They can't tell you they disagree. So you can I'm saying that to let you know you can say anything you want, and they can't badmouth you or say anything bad. What would you want to say?
I'd say, I'd be talking to the little ones, I'd say be sure and always go to Sunday school and always be on time and always never think about missing Sunday school.
Never think about missing Sunday school?
No, I go to every Sunday school I can.
All right.
And love the Lord, and He'll love you.
All right. And that's how you want people to remember you, right?
Right.
All right. That pretty much covers everything I've got here. Lee may sit down with you and do a similar thing here, and kind of conclude this, and we might put the two tapes together. And Lee may ask you questions from a different perspective from what I did. I tend to ask questions that give you a chance to say how you feel and say how you think. And Lee may ask them from a whole different perspective. All right, that's it. That's live and direct from California, Maryland, and this is December the 1st, 2003, and you've heard it first. You've heard Otis Earhart give you all the details about everything in his life as he knew it and as he grew up, and we're going to have a wonderful time as life goes on just the same. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.